right, checking in, make sure everybody can hear me.
Other income is all bullshit, PTO and all that stuff.
I can hear you.
All right, got Jason for sure. Looks like we got a few people coming in, and this is our second round, so we'll see how many people show up today if we had most of our group the other day. And I just kind of wanted to really kick it off with you guys and see if there's anything that's going on in your market, what you're trying to do, what you're wanting to implement. And this is the time for us to really break it down and even plus it and really just turn everything into a bigger ROI. And I'll give you just a quick little background on how I filter things. Whenever I'm doing anything, I'm always looking for a 5 to 10 times return. And I'll kind of put it into perspective in dollars for a second. If I'm going to invest any money into anything, whether it's doing an event, doing a happy hour, if you're going to invest money, co-marketing with an office or, doing any of that kind of stuff, getting food trucks, doing a grand opening, these are all things that are going on in your guys' world. If I'm going to spend money on that, I always look for a 5 to 10 times return. And I'll give you an even more real world example that came out of, I'm looking for my book. I should have my book sitting around everywhere in here, The E-Myth Real Estate Agent. I wrote a chapter in there, and I know many of you can probably relate to this if you're, contributing to buying leads for any of your referral partners. Boomtown is one of the things out there. Have you guys heard of Boomtown or anything like that? Right? I'm sure you have. So I just want to give you a quick background on this ROI before we start today, because this is where I want you guys to really throw on the table like, hey, I was thinking about doing this. How do I get a 5 to 10 times ROI on this? And that means rather than getting a loan because you did something or contributed or, did an event or did a happy hour and you get a loan or two, we're going to turn that into 5 or 10. That's the difference that we're talking about here. So that's what's great about Masterminds is you've all maybe tried some other things or tried some events, how it turned out. We could actually walk right back through that and say, what could we have done differently to get even more business out of it? Because you're not having to spend any more money or any more time. But when you put a plan in place on the front end to actually make sure it gets you a 5 to 10 times return, it makes you think about everything before just jumping on board and getting excited about an opportunity, right? So back to this Boomtown example, I literally, in my real estate business, I don't buy leads. I do not want my value proposition to be leads from the internet, talking to strangers, having team members have to convert these strangers. And you got to learn all these scripts and you got to I call it being tricky. Like if you guys have ever heard of, well, if I'm going to write them something or send them something in the mail, I'm going to hand address the envelopes. How many of you have done any kind of mass mailing of some sort and you hand address the envelope because that was a tricky way to get them to open it? I call it tricky. Like if you have to think of some way, well, if it's handwritten, maybe they'll open it more. That means you're not really connected with the people you're sending it to. And hand addressing envelopes takes a lot of time. So if it's not going to get you an ROI, then it may not be worth doing, or you just got to know what you're investing and what you're giving up. So in this Boomtown example, we don't buy leads ever. And I actually before I was coaching with Movement, and this was probably about 4 or 5 years prior to that, I was coaching at Keller Williams with their MAPS coaching department. And I was coaching agents in there, and one of my coaching clients drugged me over to a booth at one of our events and said, you got to sign up for Boomtown. You got to sign up for Boomtown. Now, I already knew that she wasn't losing money on Boomtown, and I haven't heard of a lot of people that actually lose money on Boomtown, but they don't make a lot of money on Boomtown, right? So in this particular example, and I wrote about it in the book where I track everything. So I go, all right, I'll sign up for Boomtown. So this is $2,400 a month, and Boomtown's kind of expensive. So it can be anywhere from $1,500 to $5,000 a month. And we spent, our zip codes were $2,400 a month. Okay. So now just envision this is your referral partner. You're talking to a mega agent or a team of agents, and you're talking to the main agent. And my value proposition is supplying leads. And to really put this into perspective for you, they've come to you or you get the opportunity to meet them and they're like, hey, if you want to help pay for my Boomtown leads, that would be awesome. Anybody have that opportunity, right? And you're like, oh God, here we go again. And I'm telling you, as an agent, I hate to see other partners getting taken advantage of in the industry because there's a lot of offices and there's a lot of agents that just look for that check to be written. And if we've talked about it on any of our one-on-one calls, you know, we're going to have a conversation about, all right, we're going to set the expectations of what we want in return for this rather than just say, yeah, sure, I'll do it for the opportunity to get in, because they have no expectation of whether you will ever make money or not. They don't really care. You may get loans. You most likely won't get loans because of it. And you're just wasting your money. So when you set the expectation up front that, all right, if it's $2,400 a month and you want $1,200 from me, then I need to get, 10 times return. I need $10,000 in income to come in. So take that $10,000, divide it by your average commission per loan. And you say every month I would need to have 3 to 5 loans coming from this program, or we have to shut it down in 3 months and I'll be out. It's not some take 3 months or take 6 months to get it ramped up. Everybody uses that too. Well, it's going to be a 6-month investment before you start paying off. Okay, well, then I'm going to have $6,000 in 6 months in it, right? $7,000 in it. So I need to have a 5 to 10 times return. So I'll need $35,000 to $70,000 in 6 months coming out of that. How many loans is that? And that's your expectation that in 6 months, we have to be on track in even 2 months or 3 months to see 35,000 to 70,000 coming in. I think I'm doing my math right. And everybody correcting me, or I'm doing it right? Okay. Pulling math numbers off my head. So I'm going to come back. So I'm going into this with that mentality. And I hope you guys will take that mentality on everything you do. Just kind of throw that in there. Or the easier way to do it is if you get any kind of cool opportunity, text me, call me. You all have my cell phone number and say, hey, I got this opportunity. What should I be preparing for? What should I plan for? What should I do? And I can just talk you through, like just talking to yourself and going, hey, what's your plan to get this ROI? And you're like, oh, yeah, that's it. So this was $2,400 a month. I go ahead and sign up. Now we got about 1,000 leads in the first year. So 1,000 internet leads are coming through the Boomtown system in the first 12 months that we did it. So now I'm in for about, what is that? 2,400 a month. So I'm into it for a little over $30,000 investment for 12 months. We got 1,000 leads in, and this is with a team where we're really holding the team accountable to calling as soon as possible. One thing I figured out on internet leads, you got to call them back instantly, like 2 seconds or less, or they're probably not going to answer the phone or be on to the next person or next call or next website. Or if you even wait a minute or two, when you call them and you do get them on the phone, they're like, what, who is this again? And then they just kind of hang up because they're already on to something else. So we figured out you got to get them on the phone in like less than 5 seconds, or you're just going to have a way diminishing return of getting them on the phone and getting their information. So I tracked all that. So my team was able to get 100 of those 1,000 people into the database. And what I call into the database is real resemblant of the brand plan that you have. When we got 8 touches in 8 weeks, and we have to get a name, address, and phone number from the lead so we can connect with them, so we can write them a note, put them in the database, and then send them 8 things in 8 weeks. Then we know we're going to be top of mind no matter what, and we're going to have probably close 70% of those people eventually. But also, just on a side note, for the 100 people that we did capture and get into the database, know that 20 of them are really moving this year. 80 of them are moving sometime over the next 2 to 5 years. right? Because everybody moves once every 5 years or so. So we already knew, even with internet leads coming in, and I think I've shared this with some of you, or maybe we've shared it on a group call. Take a little note on this, that internet leads, less than 1 to 2% of leads coming in bulk like that are doing something right this minute, right now. And the reason why, because I study everything and I pay attention to it all so I can share this with you guys and not have to figure it out on your own, is that internet leads are just now in the process of thinking about being a buyer. Might be a little better there. Woo. They're just starting the process. So they hit a website and they're looking. They haven't gotten approved yet, which is good for you guys. If you can streamline them to get them on the phone as quick as possible and get them approved, you're actually the first stop. From the real estate agent side, they're most of the time 2, 3, 4 months, 5 months out from being an active buyer ready to go look. So they're just inquiring about properties. They're surfing around on the net. I will tell you probably 50, 60, 70% of them are one spouse who just started thinking, hey, I think I might want to move this summer. And the other spouse is, hell no, we ain't moving, right? And they're just goofing around on the internet, surfing around. So that's our 1,000 leads that came in. We got 100 people on the phone, got them into the database. In that first 12 months, with really focusing on conversion and closing, we got 24 of them closed. So those 24 that closed with an average commission check of, and I put it in the book exactly, I think it was like $9,000 was our average commission. And if my buyer's agents are getting 50% of that commission, they were getting $4,500 and the team was keeping $4,500. I want you guys to put this in perspective so that you understand the real estate agent's world and how you're cooperating and working with them. So they got $4,500, I got $4,500. But remember, what was I paying out every month out of that $4,500? $2,400 a month was paid for the service. So we were closing 2 deals a month for that first year with 24 closings. When I ran the math, it basically worked out to my buyer's agents made about $50,000. I made about $24,000. Now I fronted $24,000, made $48,000, but I had to take my expenses out. So I made half of what they made and I took all the risk. Does that make sense? So when I was looking at a 5 to 10 times return, I literally said the second year, I said, hey, this was good. I mean, we got 100 people in, we closed 24 deals that we wouldn't have had. And this is the down part. We didn't lose money. I mean, I made $24,000, but I'm not into maybe getting my money back or making one-time return on my money. Spend 24 to net 24 when they're getting 48. So here's what I told the team. I said, all right, second year, I'll go ahead and re-sign up again because we didn't lose money. However, out of those 1,000 leads that we'll get this second year, I want to see 300 people in the database and I want to close 75 deals from this one source. Next year rolled through, went through all 1,000. This is the painstaking part. I went through all 1,000, figure out how many of them we got. We got around 100 and we got around the 20 something sales again. So it was the same thing. So I didn't lose money, but this is where most people stay and keep that $24,000 a year going out in this expense when you could do something else with that 24,000 to make 100 grand versus just making 24, right? Or you might be able to make 150 grand if you're looking for a 10 times return, 250 grand. So anyway, the next year is basically the same thing. So I said, all right, here's what we'll do. Year 3, you guys go ahead and take the expense of this service, right? They're not going to lose money. We've already gone 2 years. I'll make sure we don't lose money, but I'm going to net the 48,000 this next year. If you're only going to do 20 something closings and only get 100 of them in the database, I'm going to net the 50 grand. You guys will still net 25. So I'm going to take a guess at what they decided to do, that sounded like a good deal, or they decided not to do it. They said, no, we're not taking on that expense. I'm like, 2 years, I didn't lose any money. You guys would make profit. They said no. And I went, exit, cancel, because I don't need this stuff. And that's why I harp a lot on the database stuff, feeding the database every day, putting them on an 8x8 33 touch, because I know you all have 100 sales sitting in the people that already know who you are. And if you get 5 good agents and you pick them up because you're doing this brand plan and you're really running the program and staying in touch and you're top of mind, you're going to get 5 good agents out of that. And you're going to get more than 5 agents. You're going to have way more than 5 agents, but I'm talking about good ones that you can consistently count on 2, 3, 4, 5 deals a month from. When you get those 5 agents and you show them how to do what you just did to get their business, now take your 100 times 5, because you're going to show those 5 people how to scoop up an extra 100 deals a year. And guess who's going to get those 500 deals? The person that showed them how to do it. So that's kind of the preface that I want to open this up in that 5 to 10 times return model. And this is where I really want to kind of open it up. And I hope you guys will engage and just like be vulnerable enough, not really vulnerable, because this is a safe space. This is where you want to talk about some of the things that you're doing. And then we can walk through what your plan is. And then somebody's going to go, oh, and then do this and then do that. And I'll go like, and add this and add that. And we'll get that plus to where you can get a bigger ROI from it. So I'm going to just start like hardcore crash course and just throw it out and see if anybody has anything particular you might have brought today that you would be working on or doing, or an opportunity that's showing up and you want to make sure you cash in on it. And if I need to spur your memory or your jog your participation, I'll throw a couple ideas out. All right, so we'll start with a couple. There's a couple people that are opening branches. You're getting your own branch and you're getting that name out there, and you're in a little downtown area, whatever, new office space, and you want to promote, have like a grand opening, right? So a lot of times what we'll do is just, has anybody done any kind of grand opening of their office or anything like that? No. Okay, Jason, what was that like?
Basically, our whole team here, my branch leader, they threw a grand opening, and I mean, it was just invite agents and clients and stuff like that to come out, and they catered some food, and they did some what is it called with the corn bag toss, cornhole. They even did a piñata, stuff like that. So it was a pretty good little event.
Yeah. So how many agents showed up to the event?
That's a good question. I didn't get it. Yeah, I mean, it was, I would guess 20-ish, give or take.
20-ish?
Yeah, something like that. I mean, over the course of time, but at any given time, there's probably 10, maybe 10 to 15.
Yeah.
Because it was for a few hours and people filtered in, filtered out. And then there was also, family members and stuff like that of some of the agents and stuff. So.
And then if you had to guess, like how many closed loans actually came from that event, if you just had to guess?
Well, that event just happened, so none yet. But I would say, I mean, the opportunity is definitely there. I mean, you could, say 20% of them, so maybe 3 agents send you a deal over the next month or 2. I mean, you could easily do 5 or 10 deals, maybe. I don't know if I did my math right there, but I was just. So I'd say, I don't know, maybe 5 or 10 deals over the next few months could come out of that.
When you said just happened, like how long ago?
A week ago.
A week ago. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think it was last week, maybe the week before.
So, and here's another thing. I want you guys to hear this loud and clear whenever you get these opportunities. And I like spelling it out because it's like we subconsciously forget what I'm about to say. And yet just hearing it makes us more aware of, what we need to pay attention to. Whenever you get a realtor on the phone and you connect with them, or you have a grand opening and those 20 people that showed up, man, I'm telling you right there in the moment, it's great. You're having fun, you're shoulder to shoulder, you're talking to them, you're talking to some more than others. And we're ultimately doing it because we want to get some business, right? Just know that it's like that first opportunity when you're connecting with any kind of partner, whether it's a financial planner, CPA, any of that stuff, especially a real estate agent, They don't get an internet lead and hold on to it for a few days to see who they bump into next and then have something for you. So what happens is you're meeting them and you're impressive. And so many of you have said in our coaching calls, it's like, oh my gosh, Brad, it was amazing. Like we connected so well. They were telling me about their kids. I sent them flowers and, you know, they had a deal for me and they were going to get it to me. And I've called them back like 8 times in the last week and they're ghosting me. Right. So they don't always have deals just sitting around in that very first opportunity. In fact, it's going to be even worse than that because they probably are only closing 1 or 2 deals a month for the most part, right? And remember, 50% of the agents out there are doing hardly any deals, like doing 1 deal every 3 months. So when you know 50% of the agents out there are doing 1 deal every 3 months, you got probably another 20% that are doing 1 deal every 2 months. And you got another 10 or 20% that are doing 1 deal a month, right? And I've kind of broke this down for a lot of you on our one-on-one calls, that you almost have to stay in touch with people for 30 days to 90 days to increase your chances of getting just 1 deal from even half of them. So this top of mind awareness thing, this 8 touches in 8 weeks that I harp on all the time, is so that you can get that deal. When that next deal comes in, that next internet lead gets converted, they're so excited to have a deal. They're just like, you got to get you approved. And whoever's like sitting in front of them, or where their team told them to send it, or where their market center told them to send it, or there's an in-house person in their office sitting in there, loan officer sitting in their office. They just like, I got to get them approved. And they just throw it to the first thing they can find. If you have that opportunity to connect with them then, and you stay in touch with them, and somehow we tell ourselves, I don't want to pester them. I don't want to be a pest. I don't want to do, you have to be top of mind so that when they get that next deal, they think of you, right? So let me pause there for a minute and just see if there's anything you guys want to ask questions about that, or if that's resonating or something that you've had come up that you want to talk through.
Brad.
Yeah.
So a couple things I told you about yesterday. So this week do you guys I'm in Connecticut. I don't know where everyone else is, but we do broker tours where a bunch of houses are featured in their tour. So I'm doing one for the first time in 3 years in a nearby town, and I'm hosting a lunch because that's a thing, and I'm the only lender there. What do you think is a good follow-up? And I know a lot of the agents, not all of them, and a lot of them have not sent me deals. Some have, some haven't. But since I haven't seen them, they haven't done this in 3 years. What do you think is a good immediate follow-up? Because yes, I'm probably one of those people who's like, well, I don't want to be a pain in the ass, or I don't want to be that.
Yeah. And you have to be top of mind because you haven't talked to them in a while. They're not going to, in the minute of the urgency, they won't think of you guys. Sorry, I got background noise. I didn't mute out all my phones. Got a new listing that hit the market, so the phone's been blowing up. So you got to be top of mind when they're caught up in the urgency. It's almost like they're reacting. It's a fire. I got to get out. They got to go throw them somewhere and get them approved or capture them. And they're just excited. So I'm going to layer this in with what Jason was just talking about the office, opening, and also with the tour, and with just about everything you do, whether it's a training event at their office, any of those things where you're going to get a group of agents, whether it's 10, 20 agents, 30 agents to show up. If you're going to do a happy hour, just kind of take this in perspective at any of these types of events. We can also drill down on specific ones that you might do, but in general, I want you to understand this. And Claudia and I talked about this on our call, that the goal isn't that if there's 20 people on that bus, that she's got to get off the bus and write 20 notes and put 20 people on this 8x8 touch plan. Anybody not know what I'm talking about when I say brand plan or 8x8 plan? because that we've been talking about that on a couple of group calls. And if you want to see that in detail, I've got a couple of these type of recorded calls that I can send you where we really break it down on how you become top of mind. People like working with people they know, like, and trust. You got to build your trust with them through these connections just by being a resource for them, right? And then you'll be the snap one they think of. So in this 8 touches in 8 weeks, whether it's the bus tour, whether it's the open house, you're probably not going to really connect with all 20 people on the bus. So don't let yourself get overwhelmed with that. The goal is every day I connect with a few people every single day that I can write a handwritten note to and that I can send stuff to. And this is another big thing that I haven't spent a lot of time on our group calls yet, that I want to break down about this brand plan and the long-term plan, because there is one other plan in this particular case that Claudia brought up: 20 agents on a bus. My goal is to hobnob with as many of them as I possibly can. And in the moment, I want you guys to be very strategic and on purpose, because you're increasing your ROI from now on. So you are there to have fun, but you are having fun on a very on purpose mission, which means that if you bump into, like, say, me on the bus and you're talking to me and you find out I love the Chiefs, for example, and I go to the football games and got a grandson, just came back from St. Louis, and we do all this stuff, man, you got to have a way to write that stuff down and go, Brad at Keller Williams, grandson, football, just something to jot down notes so you can remember it later, because then you're going to be on to the next person and hobnobbing and bumping shoulders and all that other stuff. And you're not going to get to all 20 of them. And in fact, you're going to have some conversations, and I bet Jason can even say this, with that 20 people in that office, there's probably 10 people that came in and went out and you never really even got to catch up to them, or, you don't send them a handwritten note. You didn't really connect with them yet. You don't need to send them 8 things in 8 weeks if they really don't know who you are. So the filter is, if I can get 5 of those people on that bus or in that open house or whatever that would know my name if I saw them again in about a week, and they would go, oh yeah, I remember you, you're the mortgage guy. They don't have to remember your name or remember any details, but they know they've met you, right? And there's going to be 15 people that wouldn't know you. Like, you could walk right past them in Walmart and they just walk right on past you and not even realize that you were at that event. So there's 2 different groups that we're talking about here. The person that I connect with that might recognize me again, this is where it's critical that they get a handwritten note from you, a week later, an email, and keep it simple. These are not business changing touches, like you're going to magically get a deal from this one touch, right? The touches happen with your personal phone calls and your 2-way communication with them, but also that takes time. So we want to spread that out a little bit. And in the first 8 weeks, if you talk to them on the phone, so after the tour or after the open house, I connect with 5 people. I put them on my list. I send them a note. It's super great connecting. Glad you came to the event. It was great to hear about your success this year. Look forward to keeping in touch. And then in a week, I'm going to send them an email. And just, these are just to keep your name in front of them. I don't care if they ever read it. You don't have to sit down and think about, okay, what should I send them in a week that I could get them to actually open up and look at? It doesn't matter. All they need to see is your name, because they just got a handwritten note from you in the mail, and see your name attached to mortgage. Boom. That's all I needed from that. If they open it, that's bonus, but it's not going to get you any business any faster, right? So that first email is just, hey, just in case you need a quick approval, here's the link to my online approval app. And it's just right there on your Movement Mortgage site. And then 1 week later, you go to your About Me page on your Movement Mortgage page. Don't make this any more difficult than it needs to be. Print that first page, drop it in the mail in an envelope. And if you don't like the way it looks, put a note on it. They won't even look at what you send them if you wrote a note going, so great connecting last week, or, looking forward to catching up for some golf, or whatever your communication was, because these are the people that you connected with. And I actually call that, we're covering a lot of stuff here, guys, but we got it recorded so you can go back and grab this. I call it trashing the letter. And I don't know who told me that term, trashing, but when we were printing letters in our follow-up, if you can trash the letter and write a genuine like note. So for example, I might have 100 letters coming out of my system every day because I've got thousands of people that are on this every 10 or 12-day follow-up plan. And they're getting something in the mail about every 2 months. They're getting an email about every 2 months. They're getting a social media touch about every 2 months. They're getting a postcard every 2 months. They're getting an item of value once every 4 months. They're getting a phone call once every 3 months. So there's all these things are layered in over this timeline of a year. And so nothing's ever hitting them all. It's never all emails or all text messages or all video emails, you know, just like these people that sell you stuff. It's like, oh, more people are likely to look at your video email than they will a regular email. So true. Send me 12 video emails in the next 12 weeks. I'm not going to watch the last 10 or 11 of them, right? You guys get me here? So mix your mediums up. And if you've got something on an automated service, like an automated newsletter or something like, and you do a weekly video on like the bomb videos and things like that, if it's automated, it's great. Just know that after 2 or 3 of those things too fast, they're just ignoring it. You're becoming white noise through that medium. They're not looking at it all. So I challenge people all the time. It's like, well, Brad, I got this really great newsletter and the open rate's amazing. I said, great. You want to see if the open rate's really working? Oh, it's working good. Okay, then I want you to call everybody who opened it and say, hey, what was your favorite thing in that newsletter I sent you last week? What was the thing you got most out of it? And if you call 100 people that opened it, I'm telling you 99, if not 100 will say, I don't remember. Actually, when did you send it? Let me pull it up and look again. I know there was something good in there, you know, so that's kind of where that stuff goes. So anyway, those touches spread out over time. It's the phone calls that are magical, because I can tell you right now, if you guys are talking to a real estate agent and a lead happens to come in any day, a day before, the day of, or a few days after, and you just got done talking to them on the phone, you're probably going to get the phone call and go, oh man, you need to prove, I know exactly who we need to get you to prove. But then if we don't do anything for a month or two, because we don't want to bug them, you're back out again. So you're hitting them with the little things to keep that phone call stretched out for another week or 2 weeks or however long it is till the next touch.
Hey, Brad,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt you. Can I ask you a
No,
question?
you're not at all.
Can I ask Claudia a question, actually?
Yeah.
How are you sponsoring your broker open house? Are you just sitting at one open house and having other brokers come through, or are you sponsoring like the meeting beforehand? Like, what are you doing to sponsor it?
So the way they do it is this particular group does it. They don't have a bus. They have, I think their minimum is 10 houses. And they require every agent to go to every house because they don't want people to drop off. I think it's a great idea because it's the accountability, like everybody has to, and then they have to fill out a little form that tells you, what do you think about the house? Is it priced too high, too low, whatever. And then at the final house, I don't go to all the houses. I think this is what you're asking. At the final house, I'll sponsor a lunch, nothing crazy, just something quick, because of course they're in a hurry. And then while they're eating, I will do a little spiel. And again, nothing crazy. I don't wait. So while they're pretty much all eating, and since I have a rapport with the manager, she'll say, thank you for lunch, whatever. And, here's Claudia. So what I do is I pick a topic. So what I'm going to talk about on Thursday is the fact that the loan limits, the conforming loan limits are going up in January, and that we're offering early action. What am I saying here? Like we can offer them now, and, just to open the conversation and then ask them what they're seeing in the market.
Can I ask you why you're not on that bus?
They don't do buses.
So everyone's traveling by themselves?
Yeah.
So have you thought about getting into a car with like 3 other agents and carpooling and just having that? Because I used to do this when I first started, and like I did it in Del Mar, which is like one of the like most prestigious lake areas in our community. And I love going out and seeing these houses in Rancho Santa Fe that like $5-10 million that I can never afford. But I would get into a car with 3 other agents for the next 3 hours, and I built my rapport with those 3 agents. And I really got to deepen my relationships with those agents. Rather than you're not flying solo driving around, are you? Or are you just hanging out at that last house?
It's just me. What do you mean flying solo? I mean, I'm the only one. So I'm picking up the food, whatever, and then I'm bringing it to the final house. I haven't thought of that just because the way this particular group of ladies or, agents have done it in the past is they'll have a time frame. So I don't really know who's going where at first. Do you know what I mean? Like, I guess I could.
I would call up 3 of your friends that are on there and get them in a car. Trust me, like you are gonna love being in this car. Y'all are gonna everybody's gonna get to know each other better, and you're gonna have that much more fun. And then all of a sudden it becomes like a thing. Like every time that you wind up doing this, you wind up getting in the car with the same people, and you wind up deepening your relationships with these same people. And then you don't need to pick up lunch, have someone deliver it. Like,
You know what? Actually, I could do the driving now that you're saying that.
you could do the driving, you could chit chat.
Brad's saying yes.
You can even sponsor a bus and save everybody from driving around.
With everybody tightening their belts on expense reports. I don't know about the bus, but you're gonna drive anyway. So
Yeah, I know.
Oh, they're really looking at the expense reports. So now if I call it a lunch and learn, they won't pay for it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I know limos sometimes you can work out a deal with a limo if you're going to do it every week and say, if I could book you every week in the middle of the day, is your limo available? And maybe even cut you a break and do maybe it's $100 or $150 for the whole month. And you do it 4 times a week. You just kind of start thinking about it and then start breaking it down. How do I make it work? And again, I never jump right on just spending money. Because again, if you're going to spend that $150, we need to make $1,500 off of that day's luncheon, which means we need 1 loan to come out of that lunch before the end of the day, or else that's not getting a 10 times return. So
and then another question I had, Brad, when you had mentioned to write a note right after one of these events or what have you, if you don't have that person's home address and you're writing it to the office, they might not go in the office that often.
Yeah.
So the whole point of doing that is the timing of it, right? So I texted you last week. I was like, check it out. I'm writing thank you notes, which I have never done before. So I'm like, I've got them here. Like I get an application, I write a thank you note, right?
Yeah.
Because I got time on my hands now. So what about Claudia, and get those people in the car and then shoot a little video message to them and text them a little video message personalized to them. Hey, love spending time with you. That was great. It was so great to get to know you and learn about your grandkids or whatever it is. And send them a little 30-second, 1 minute video message personalized to them. They're getting it on the spot, shortly thereafter, maybe same day, next day. And that way you have no way of them missing out on that thank you card up front. And it's sitting in their inbox at the office and they don't get it for months on end.
Yeah.
And then
it's okay if it is so let's pause here for 1 second. I'm going to grab this right here so that everybody's getting something out of this. It's not about an open house tour. It's not about that thing specifically. It's about every single thing you do. If you go do a training in an office, hear what I'm about to say. If you do a grand opening, hear what I'm about to say. If you run by open houses on Sunday and meet people, hear what I'm about to say. It's about creating 6, 7, 8, 9 touches around every event. So when you're hearing us say, send a video or a note or a this or that, it's like send all of those spread out over a few days and get all your touches from several different mediums. And it can even be the same dang touch. So now where I'll say on this note thing, you don't know if they're going to get it. Who cares? Say in the video what you said in the note, then write the note and mail it to their office and then send them an email and say the same thing and then send them a text message, right? You can say the same exact message spread out over 4 or 5 days because they're not going to pay attention to 2 of those methods. but they might see one of those methods, right? And I will tell you, there is I don't get it. It's the handwritten note, opening it up, and it's handwritten with just your name on it and no PS, no business card. It's nothing anybody experiences, nothing. And I love the personal text message. I mean, I love, if I'm going to call somebody or text somebody, it's almost better just to shoot it in a video and send it, right? As long as you're connected to them. Because if that video comes through or it comes through as a link on their text or their computer, and they're not really connected with you and they have no clue who, they can't think of who you are when they see your name, they're not going to click on the link. So it's not, they're not going to open it. That scares people with all these viruses and everything like that. So if I'm not expecting it, I'm probably not going to open it. But Sean Parker could send me anything. In fact, if I still get them and I'll be curious about it and I'll text him real quick. Did you send me a link with a video? He'll say, yep. And I'll open it. Right. So that kind of just keep in mind, it's the multiple mediums that's going to really make the impact. But I'm going to challenge you to not skip the note. It is 10X's everything. And I love the personal touch. So don't get me wrong on that. That video shooting that, man, we did that as our communication tool on our whole team. I mean, think about while you're in the middle of a transaction and you do that with the listing agent. Go, hey, I'm the lender on the other side of this transaction. I want you to know who I am and how to get a hold of me. So I'm going to shoot you my information right behind this video. I mean, boom, that's crazy awesome, right? Cool. Somebody else want to ask something? Did I see somebody kind of flag their hand?
I did earlier. I was just going to agree with Eddie. I did a Top Golf event, I don't know, like a month ago or something like that. And the agents that I was going to go with, we just carpooled together. And I was just going to say to Claudia, like, if you do that, especially with gas prices and stuff, a lot of people are happy to ride with you. So it's a great segue to build rapport. And it was like a 50-minute drive each way. So I had 2 hours just sitting in there chatting with them. And I volunteered to drive, even though I had the truck that uses all the gas. But I was happy to do it because, like you said, it brought so much value to me and building rapport with these agents. And they were agents that I already love and have a great relationship with. It was just adding and deepening it. So I was just agreeing. Great idea, Eddie.
Well, and Claudia, I wanted to throw like another
It's a lot more fun that way too. Just
Thank
saying.
you.
Yeah, there were several of you that really loved Jason's idea on the poker chip or whatever. So when you're in the car with them and you're doing that, what if every time you're in these one-on-one situations and those people that you're really connecting with, they get a chip for some reason? We talked about this on the last call. It's like, what if if I give out a poker chip, right? Whatever that's going to be for, what are my 8-10 touches around that poker chip that's going to get me a bigger ROI? So now it turns into this thing that you're the poker chip guy that, man, if you ever see this person anywhere and they have these poker chips, you got to get them because you can accumulate them. And hell, I got a weekend at such and such because I had 10 of them, right? But they're doing something to get that chip and you're deciding when to give them the chip. So every time they give you a loan app and every time there's an approval, you get 2 and whatever it is. And you just make this your strategic plan around that. You just turned whatever it costs to get those poker chips into a 10 times return versus spending the money and then hoping I get a deal or 2, you know? So the biggest thing I want to get away. And then if you guys have any other ideas, it's like, okay, this is pretty cool. I was thinking about doing this. What do you think? And we can plus it. But before we get there, before you do anything, always write out a timeline of what is my strategic plan to get 5, 6, 7, 8 touches. There's nothing magical about how many, but it's just not 1 and not 2 and not 3. It's 5, 6, 7, 8 or a year plan. So what's your timeline plan to go around what you're doing to get a 5 to 10 times return? And you got to just sit down on paper and write it out and what it would mean. Like, this is what I'm spending, or this is my time I'm spending, and I want to get a 5 to 10 times return. Divide that by my average commission. That's how many loans I need to get from this thing. So it makes
Would you say that these are going to be set up like after, like say, for example, if you're going to host an event, would you set up the touches after the event to follow up with them, or would you include like the invite to the event as a potential touch? I mean, how would you?
Awesome question. So if I forgot to do it before, then you got to do it after. If you plan ahead, you know you've got an opportunity in a month from now, you've got a month to get 3 or 4 touches in place to get more people to the thing so that you can get a bigger return on it. And then you got the 3 or 4 or 5 touches after the thing to make sure you're there 1 month, 2 months, 3 months later. In fact, I would make it, everything you do needs a 90-day follow-up behind it if you want to increase your chances of getting a loan out of it. Because it's just whoever's there, it's going to take a month or 2 for them to get that next buyer and for you to be top of mind. So you're not even top of mind immediately at that one real good connection. I've had at least a half a dozen people on our calls who had this great connection. I mean, they were telling me how awesome it was. And this agent had a deal for me. They were at open houses or wherever. And they're like, and I've called them like 8 or 10 times and they're just ghosting me. And it's like, who knows what happens to them? Maybe they lost the buyer blew them off. I don't know. But I mean, you just got to stay in touch to make sure you capture all those opportunities. And the more you can do it ahead of time, if you guys have a training event. So let's just do this, for example. This is another one that came up real world. So I got the opportunity to go to the office and they usually have 8 or 10 agents that come into the office, right, for a training, and you're going to come in and do your spiel. Well, what if you could get the roster? So now let me just walk through this. So my brain would say, man, if I could get the roster and build a 3 or 4 touch excitement thing to really get even just twice as many agents, to get 16 people to the meeting instead of 8. Now I have something where I can go back to the broker and say, hey, what would it be like if you could get more of your agents in the office for training? What are they going to say? Man, I would love to get them more plugged in, but everybody's kind of virtual and everybody's all over. And so, well, if you could get me a roster, I'm going to make this thing sound so fun. It's going to sound like it's a party, but it's just your Tuesday morning meeting or your Wednesday morning meeting. And you've given me this opportunity for this 5-minute slot. But if I put touches in front of me coming to teach or speak at that training, just the office meeting, and I get twice as many people to show up, what do you think the broker is going to do for their next opportunity? Hey, you want to come back again? I've never seen this many agents show up at my office, right? And I know, again, we're starting out with no relationship with these agents. So you might have to get creative. Like, what would the touches be to get 8 more agents to show up at the event? Well, you might have to give away some poker chip that gets you in a drawing to win something. Or, the best one that's super, super cheap is Powerball tickets. If you have Powerball in your marketplace, here's what I would do is with agents that would show our listings. So my event around everything when I marketed a property, and you guys can share this with any of your brokers if they're trying to get more showings of the property. If you set up a showing on one of my listings, you went into a drawing every quarter, 4 times, or what is that, 4 times a year, that I would give away Powerball tickets, right? You would get one tab for drawing. If you leave me feedback, you get 2. And if you left your card in the house, you'd get 3 opportunities for every one of my listings that you show to win $600 million, right? So when that Powerball got really big, man, we started promoting, just sending out emails and flyers to the offices and text messages going, hey, show a quarantine listing this month and you're in a drawing for $600 million. We're giving away Powerball tickets in April or whatever it might be. So just that alone, you guys could do all kinds of stuff like that would cost nothing, $2 a ticket, and you only have to give away 1. It's scratch off or whatever. So you can do stuff to build up this excitement. I think one of the calls we were even talking about the playbooks. How many of you have the playbooks? If you don't worry about it yet. I mean, this is something we can work into your budget if you're going to get an ROI on it, right? So if I wanted to get more people to a Tuesday morning meeting at the office, you could say in the email that goes out a week before the meeting saying, hey, I'm coming to your office and I've got a marketing book with over 100 marketing ideas that you can use in September. And everyone who attends gets one of these for showing up. Now, I guarantee you that right there is going to get 2 or 3 or 4 more people that the broker hasn't seen in a long time to show up at the office, right? So anybody who attends gets a free 100 idea marketing guide, right? And then that opens up the door for you, whoever you're handing those out to meet and start getting them in place and put them on a 3-month subscription. And they have to meet with you every month for 3 months to stay on it. So it's just little things like that. Or it could be that poker chip that, you're building up your whole marketing around what that thing does for you, whatever it might be. So that's what I mean by the touches. It's like, so then you start looking at your touches and go, okay, now how do I make them impactful to get there? And again, giving away something free might be how you get the people you haven't met to show up. But once you follow up after the event, so after the event, I'm just going to go to everyone who showed up. I'm going to tear this page out and go, oh my gosh, this was a great idea. And I'm going to drop it in the mail to them a week after the meeting and go, hey, have you done anything in your book yet? Have we met yet to help you get things implemented? Touch around that marketing book. So that's how and we've actually got a call, one of our group calls, if this is something that you are interested in or have, and you want to bring this thing to life. We went into detail on a timeline of how you can make touches around the playbook to bring it to life every single month, create so much value behind it. They do not want to not get the book versus just handing it out and seeing what happens, right? So just everything you do, put that filter on it and get a 5 to 10 times ROI. And again, you're going to just see a better increase in your results versus just kind of letting it happen naturally. All right, what else? What questions do you have? What have I spurred? Questions, interest, ideas? Or has this been good? Has this been a good call for you guys? Yeah. And sorry, you guys is a Midwest thing, so we everybody's a guy in Missouri. Sorry.
That explains it.
Yeah, exactly.
No, we use it here too in Connecticut.
Yeah.
Another idea is, so, Eddie, you mentioned a lot of agents aren't in their offices, like, oh, it's summer, call me after labor, whatever, excuse 1 through 10. But you can actually, it's a little creepy, but there's a website called Fast People Search. You can find their home address. So if you know.
Yeah, I was going to put that in the chat.
That's crossing the line with me. I had an agent show up to my house one time after meeting my wife at an open house and left a pumpkin pie at my doorstep.
That's cute. You don't
I
like
don't
that?
agree. I think it's really creepy. The fact that he looked up my wife and got her home address. And
Well, that's different. Yeah.
Like,
So
there's I don't know. I got a little upset about that one.
So here's where I'll put the filter on that though. Did your wife know who they were and did they all have a good conversation when they met, or did they just bump into each other and this happened?
He's got this thing with going to open houses, which drives me nuts because she likes to kick tires, and I don't like her doing that. But like, she would go when her mom's in town, they go to like open houses, and I'm like, stop harassing these agents. They got stuff to do. We're not buying a house. So she did that, and she wrote her name down. No other contact information. This dude found her and left a pie at my doorstep. Like, I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm more of a private person.
No, this is a perfect way to pull this together because here's what I wanted to distinguish the difference of. So there was no connection there. That is freaking creepy. But if she had opened up and gave her life story and I'm married and this and that, it's like, oh, awesome. Then that pie might have actually had an art note that had all your cards on it if I had connected with her. I definitely would not do it if I didn't connect. So let me explain something about this brand plan, the long-term plan, and then the other one, which is just your generic follow-up plan. And that's the one I haven't talked a whole lot about because I really wanted you guys focused on connecting people and getting them on this brand plan because it is 5 to 10 times more business when you get somebody on a consistent, persistent drip follow-up. And it has to be somebody that you connect with. So I'll give you a perfect example. On 2 coaching calls in the last month, people were working on this brand plan, putting people on the list, and they were calling them and writing notes, and they were just being ghosted by everybody. And just by asking a couple questions, I figured out, like, one of the things I said, all right, let's look at the one that's ghosting you. How long have they been in real estate? Have they been in for a long time? Have they been in for a short time? I'm not looking for exact years. Do they have kids? I mean, what do they do for fun? You know, what company? I don't know. And we were finding out that this was even from someone going to open houses and hanging out with agents at the open houses for like an hour. Their conversations were so surface level. They never really connected with the person, and everybody was just being nice to each other. In fact, can you imagine how awkward it might be to be sitting there for an hour talking to an agent and you're just talking and not even paying attention? So if you're not connected, you don't want to put somebody on a, that's creepy, and it's spammy. So the alternate plan, when you don't really connect with somebody, is more of a once a month touch, right? So the pie's a little aggressive. I mean, if you connected with somebody, you might do that. I would do something like that if it was around the holidays and I had leftovers. I don't know, that I don't know what the agent's planning on grabbing from that. But when people would come through our open houses, I would turn around that card when they left and wrote down who actually came through. So they have them fill out forms. You know, if a spouse is just out looking, they usually put their husband's name, right? And then their address and phone number and stuff. And so you're sending messages to a guy that never met you. So I would always put the lady had her daughter and the mom was there. So 3 generations of girls were out just running through open houses. So they didn't even know. I don't even know if they were serious buyers or not, but the note went out. It was like, so great to see 3 generations of you running around. You know, I dropped the note in the mail first because that crosses you over from the limbic part of the brain. And you got to be smart enough to understand if you're doing something like that, yeah, that'd be a little creepy. So just put some thought into it and what those touches are. And you don't have to have the expense of a pie for your very first touch. That's just stupid. You want to work into that relationship and then know, like, if you could work in there, if I wanted to do this pie thing, then my initial conversation would be somehow driven around. So it's America's pies. What's your favorite pie? Blueberry. Okay, then I'm going to make sure you get a blueberry pie on this day. If I were going to do a pie thing, there would be 3 or 4 touches before that ever happened. So anyway, there is a 12 touch plan, which is what you just put somebody on that you've got the name, they've heard your voice, you've heard their voice, but you really didn't connect. That might just be a monthly thing, looking for that opportunity somewhere in between to get them into a conversation again where you can connect, because you're always going to get about a 1% return from blast marketing. But now if you take your blast marketing and you at least call them once somewhere in there and they hear your voice and they can connect those things to that, they won't be as much white noise. And that's where you actually get closer to a 1 to 2% return. But you're never going to get what I've seen out in the industry. You're never going to get more than a 2 to 3% conversion rate without being very intense, fast response, and blasting them with stuff that they want to see. You get up to about a 3% return on internet leads if you have a very intense system, and it is very intense. It takes a lot of time. But when you just start throwing stuff out there to all the agents once a month, a newsletter, things like that, you'll get less than a 1% return. And then as you, whatever that call to action is, or that marketing title that would get them to pick up the phone and connect with you or to go have coffee with you, that's when you move them over to the 8 touches in 8 weeks. Do not miss that opportunity. Write that note, whatever, get as personable as possible, and then just stay in front of them and make those personal touches a couple times over the next 8 weeks. And what I can promise you is that will get you 2 to 3 times more business, because they won't think of anybody else to send a loan app to in the next 8 weeks if you're that in touch with them. And you're never going to be pesky to somebody that you connected with and you started it out with that personal video or personal note. That's what gets you out of them calling and saying, hey, you can take me off your list. I mean, you won't ever get that if you connected. You'll always get it if you really weren't connected. So that'll also be your rating on if I'm really connecting with people or not.
Today, I had 2 of my closest friends asked me to take me off the list for the agent marketing playbooks.
Yeah.
They're like, stop spending your money on me. I'm going to send you all my business. I'm like, start reading them and learn something.
that is the one time it is okay to get it. And it's like, you know what? You're worth me spending that book on. I'd rather see you implement one thing out of it, and then we'll talk about if I'm going to take you off of it or not. Right? Yeah. Or you could just say, well, then we need to implement one thing out of there to get one extra loan from you a month that you wouldn't have had. If I can help you do that, then that'll pay for the book.
Right.
Oh yeah, I'll take an extra deal. Yeah. And I've probably in 20 years had 2 clients that did say, now, like on our long-term plan, it's about every 10 or 11 days you want something with your name and logo coming up. It can be personal stuff on Facebook too, as long as you know they saw it, whatever it might be, or a direct message or whatever. But it's more spread out, and we only have a phone call every 3 months with a social media touch in between. So that's still 8 touches. But if I did that every year for the next 3 years, I'm telling you, year 4, I can do 2 phone calls a year and 2 social media touches, and I'm going to be still connected with that person. But if I do that too early on, then I'm not as connected. I'm getting spread out and they're kind of forgetting about me. And in this market right now, I mean, I have a past client. I've sold 2 houses for them. Now, this is the fun part about being connected, but also what could have happened, right? So they're on a follow-up plan. We refer business back and forth. They call me up last weekend and they say, hey, we just went through a house and we think we want this house. I just sold them the house they're in 2 years ago. They've done all kinds of upgrades and spent money and solar panels and all this crap. They were not planning on moving. And they drove past a house that was up on the market. So they're not on my potential buyer plan, right? That I'm having them drive by properties. They're on my past client follow-up. You know, once every 3 months, they get a call from me and we stay in touch. But they called me and said, we just went through a house and we want to buy this house. Went, oh, well, we were on Zillow and this agent met us out there. I'm like, oh, you know, I'm like, but we told them we already have an agent. So when you build that to that point, it's like they'll go look at houses with somebody else because they know we're busy, but they will never buy a house without us. And that's turning into $1 million worth of real estate. $400,000 house I'm listing today. And we got our offer accepted yesterday on a $370,000 house. So it's almost $1 million in real estate. And they just on a whim on the weekend, last weekend, drove by this house, called this agent. Zillow threw it to some agent, had him go show. And the agent didn't say, are you working with somebody? Right. So, and if she would have said that, they would have said yes. And she would have said, oh, you should call your agent. And then I would have showed him the house. So anyway, that's irrelevant. But the point is people move too fast in this market. And if some crazy opportunity in a hot market shows up, man, you guys got to have that conversation with your real estate agents, right? How well are you in touch with your database? And when you start doing it with them, you can show them how to do it with their database so they don't miss these deals. That's where you're going to amplify your business. So I know we're a little bit over time. I think we're right at the end of the hour, aren't we? Yeah, just a couple minutes over. Any last minute questions or anything that you want to get out of the call before we hang up, or how would you guys rate this call? Yeah.
Good call, yeah.
Great.
All right, cool. Well, that's what I love about masterminds. It's just talking around ideas and tweaking things and really plussing things, taking everything to the next level so you get a bigger ROI. All right, well, if you guys have any other questions or you want to go over something, you all have my cell phone number. You can text me or call me. If you don't, then make sure you let me know, shoot me an email or whatever, but you all should have it. And we can talk around a specific idea and or bring it to your coaching call as well. All right.
Thank you. Great
Yep.
call.
And if you don't have your call scheduled for this month, it's running this week and next week. And if you figure it out before I figure out you're not on the calendar, one of us is going to get with each other. So let me know and we'll get that time blocked. All right, guys.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank
See ya.
you.
Great call.
See you, bud.
Bye. Thanks for your contributions, bud.
Yeah, man. Always.